Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Tin Man Squad channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor, and today I'll be reading two chapters out of my They Saw Sasquatch book. And I'm saying two because they're both encounters at the same place. And they took place over at the Oregon Caves. So let's start off with the first one, shall we? Which the year that this occurrence happened is in 2011. Please accept my request to not use my name, as I am an Oregon physician and I don't wish to be identified, but a friend told me you were looking for stories of Sasquatch sightings, and I just want to tell my story anonymously. At least it will be told. Hey, if I was writing this book, I understand too. Fear of being ridiculed. It happens, I know. In 2011, my wife and children and I visited the Oregon Caves. We had been there before, but this trip was to have an outing with the kids to hike the trails above and around the chateau. Yeah, here's a picture of the place that they were staying at. We had hiked for a couple of hours, and at a particular beautiful scenic area, I excused myself to use nature's outdoor toilet facilities. Better make sure there ain't no poisonous bugs around there when you do. Having trekked about 100 feet away from the family on my return, I saw a narrow trail that wound around to my right, figuring to circle around and approach my family from a different direction so I could jump out with a growl like I'm prone to do. I took the trail. Well, as I came around a large tree, I almost jumped out of my skin. About 50 feet away from me was this tree that lightning or wind had toppled at one time. And just on the other side of the massive trunk was a tall, ape-looking being. He's just probably curious seeing an attack. It was cautiously watching my family over the top of the still green pine needles. It was covered with long hair, and I had an immediate mental picture of a tall orangutan. Within less than a second, it must have sensed my presence, and it was gone. It did not even look toward me. Just immediately reacted and disappeared. There was no noise, no movement, and even though I quickly pushed through the underbrush to the spot where I had seen it, nothing. My family turned and said, "We caught Dad." When I told them what I saw, they thought it was a gag. Once I convinced them I was serious, we all carefully fanned out around the tree, carefully looking for prints, hair, just anything to prove what I had seen. But no, we all decided that it would remain a family secret, while I do believe the kids still doubt that I saw something, because on the way home, I got a couple of "really dads." Anyway, it looked rather thin, about 5 or 6 feet tall, with a tan, brown, and orange-like coat. The face was monkey-like, but everything happened so fast. My impression was over in a flash. Maybe it was a youngster, since the reports I have heard always showed him to have dark fur and be much taller. AJ from Oregon. Well, AJ, yes, it could have been a young Bigfoot that was maturing, and he was just being curious. He ain't going to attack you, so that's always good. But yeah, I'll be like, I believe you if I was in that vehicle with you, because your kids doubt believing what you've seen unless they've seen it themselves. That's the only way they'll know. All right. The second Oregon Caves encounter happened in July of 2013. So here's this other person's story. Dear Sir, we do not want our names published for the same reason that we have never before mentioned this story to anyone, because it is so preposterous for even us to believe, had it not happened so vividly. And there's a lot of people that don't want to give their names out. It was on a camping trip close to the Oregon Caves. We wanted to spend a few days in one of the historic mining areas of this beautiful country. But being unfamiliar with Josephine County, we had no knowledge of just how wild it was in your vast mountains. We chose by map and word of mouth from a neighbor since we were tent camping, we didn't want to go remote. So we drove the paved road, Highway 46, south from Cave Junction, and then turned right and followed several Forest Service roads that lead to Sucker Creek and Bowling Creek. Not too far after our turn, we spotted the turnoff that went in about 100 feet and turned slightly around a hill, which afforded us complete privacy for our campsite. Others had camped here before, and there was a large rock-lined circle where they had built many campfires. We also had our propane camp stove for cooking, but since it was early in the summer, there were no fire danger warnings posted. Still, even if it's early in the summer, I would be posting stuff for fire warnings because you just don't want to light nothing and then it's hot and then it starts to blaze real quick. Here's a picture of like a nice cabin. I think that's what it is, or it might be like a destination stop. But anyway, I would love to live in it. We had purchased 2 plastic gold mining pans and a couple of scoops, and we wanted to try our hands at gold panning. There were no claim signs posted, so we figured we were safe. Turned out that the water was so cold and deep that we just spent some time digging around the steep banks and soon lost interest in freezing feet, ankles, and hands. So we spent time reading and just enjoying the scenery. We hadn't gone very far off the Caves Highway, so there was a rather steady sound of vehicles, but heavier at certain times, and since being in the forest, it was actually comforting to hear people passing nearby. On our second full day, we put a lunch in a backpack, took our hiking sticks, and set out down the road that led deeper into the forest and toward a more remote area where the pavement ended and we were on a dirt road. We followed this road and only a couple of vehicles came by. One was a forestry pickup, and here's a picture of a riverbed that they were talking about with a bunch of big rocks. We came upon a fairly plain trail leading away from the road, so we decided to do some real exploring. I don't know how long we followed it, because originally being from Los Angeles, neither of us knew how to judge distance except by city blocks, but we must have walked for close to 2 hours through a beautiful area. The trail was now close in on both sides by a gradually narrowing canyon with high slanted sides covered by sparse trees and thick shrubs. Suddenly we spotted a small brown reddish creature drinking from a pool in the stream, and we thought it to be a bear cub. My husband and I had both read that you should always avoid young bears because their mothers were very dangerous. That is a true fact. Mm-hmm. So I started to back away, but he said he wanted a picture first, so he walked a little bit further and bent low, and he sneaked closer with his camera. He had followed the curve in the stream, which had placed him behind a large bush, and I was still edging slowly away. There was a large rocky cliff that bordered on our left, and I moved to my right so I could still see Sam, when suddenly a large hairy bear-like creature appeared on a ledge, and it was carrying a huge log. And walking upright on 2 feet, I screamed to Sam to run. Oh yeah, if you're around its young, they will attack too, just like a bear would. But he had already seen it and started to run toward me, and the huge beast had thrown the rotting log. It landed just where Sam had been, and it looked like it exploded, with pieces flying all over. We both ran until we had to stop and catch our breath, and that's when we realized that my husband had dropped the camera as he dove out of the way of the log. He said he had taken one photo of the young animal, which he said looked like a large orangutan, but his only view of the adult was out of the corner of his eye as he heard a noise like a growl. And as he turned, he said he glimpsed what looked like a big, shaggy ape, but standing more upright and not slumped over. It was a dark brown to orangish brown and the baby was a lighter color. When he looked back, there was no sign of either creature. We quickly hiked back to our van, picked up, and left. We never returned, so our camera is likely still there. We own a business here, so please do not publish our names. Thank you. Yeah, I doubt their camera might be still there. Somebody might have hiked in that area and took it. You never know. Okie dokie, folks. That was the end of them 2 chapters in this book of the Oregon Caves. And if you're in that area, be alert for some Bigfoots, okay? So that's going to be it for now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on post notifications for more book reading content like this. This has been another successful installment of the Tin Man's Corner channel. I'm your host, Jeffrey Tin Man Taylor. I say that's a wrap, and have a nice day, y'all.